All right, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Thursday evening. It's good to see you. It's great to be here. It's cooled down here in New York a little bit, so that's a nice thing. So it's all good. Um, I was thinking before we came on here today, just before we came on, because I sometimes I'll write a little note or something. I did write a couple of notes, but I was thinking about how it's like nothing is better than anything else. So, what we're talking about here, what we're sharing, what we're exploring, whatever you want to call it, is the whole idea that nothing is better than anything else, because that immediately would imply that the self is involved for sure, because the self always has this like, well, I'd rather have that, or I wouldn't want to have that, or that seems good and that seems bad. So, but in truth, nothing is better than anything else. Everything is exactly as it is. And the self has this whole story or opinion about that thing. And that's the thing that makes it better or worse than something else, if that makes sense. So nothing is ever better or worse than anything else. It is exactly what it is. So when the separated self is all involved in evaluating, all involved in deciphering, evaluating, putting together, whatever it happens to be, it's always going to come back to this thing of this is better than that. Now, obviously, that's a very dualistic reality, because there's always this thing of comparing, and that comes to this idea about what specialness is, right? So that's special, that's not special. And as as the character walks around in the world, that is its MO. That's what its MO. There's nothing wrong with it at all. That's just what it does. And this discussion and this sharing that we're going to have tonight is about maybe exploring that if there wasn't a perception or a story or a self to filter that through, then nothing is better than anything else. And I mean, it's can be pretty harsh that, tragedy is not tragedy, it's just what happens. Success is not success, it's just what happens. It does not mean at all that there might be an experience of joy or an experience of fear or an experience of grief, right? So that's okay, but nothing is ever better or worse than anything else. And so as I was kind of contemplating this before we came on, um it comes back to this whole idea that the self needs something to grab onto. The self needs some um what's the word I want to say? It needs a hook. It needs a hook. It needs something to grab onto so that it can substantiate its own existence. And the more it can grab onto something to substantiate its own existence, the more that the separated self is separated. And there's nothing wrong with the separated self. That's one of the things I wanted to say tonight for sure, because we talk about it here a lot about the separated self, the separated self. There's nothing wrong with the separated self. It's just, linguistically, it's difficult to put into to kind of words about this. But the separated self itself, separated self itself, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. It is exactly what it is. So there's nothing wrong with the separated self. So it's kind of it reminds me a lot of when when we're talking about the Course in Miracles and talking about, and you talk in spiritual circles a lot about the ego or the egoistic mind. It's the same thing as a separated self, basically. And so what the self will start to do with that, what the ego will start to do with that, is be like, we have to get rid of the ego. Bad ego, bad ego, bad, me good. I sound like I sound like bad Native American old school talking. Me good, you bad. But this is what the egoic mind does. It starts to be like, oh, no. We have to get rid of, now that I'm spiritual, we have to get rid of the ego. But there's really, it's doing the same thing. It's like the tiger chasing its own tail over and over and over. So even when you try to satiate the ego, or you try to control the ego, or you try to ignore the ego, it's still in this state of making the ego real, and the ego is the separated self. So that's important. I see a lot of flashing going on my screen. Can someone just tell me if everything's okay? There's flashing happening. Is everything okay?
I don't see any flashing. You're good.
Okay, it's fine. It's just all your little pictures up there are like, but that's okay. Maybe there's an energy shift. And that's another story. So nothing, there is nothing to hold on in this conversation that we're having. The self can't hold on to any of it, because if the self can hold on to something of what we're talking about, then we're definitely down a road that's not what we're talking about. Because the self will be like, okay, like I just said, it'll be like, okay, the separated self is the bad thing, so don't be separated, be at one, be Advaita, or whatever you want to call it, be oneness. There's nothing wrong with either of those, but you get into this rat race of chasing your own tail over and over and over. And the bottom line is that you can't get it wrong and you can't get it right, because there is no wrong and right, because it already is exactly right here. Right here. Before the trying to get it wrong, get it right, it's already right here. So it's what's the thing I thought about today? It's the easiest of the easy, because it's so obvious. Because it's so obvious. Now, one other thing I'm going to say before we start to talk about this is that I had a comment. You can look. I don't get a lot of comments on my YouTube. Thank you for the people that do comment on my YouTube. If you can, it helps the algorithms. If you can, doesn't matter. You don't have to, whatever. But I got a comment today that was so, I should pull it up right now. It was from my latest video. I'm going to pull it up right now. And I thought it was so interesting and kind of funny. So it's the latest video, and someone says, "I'm so sorry you're so lost, my friend. God will find you if you seek him." And I just busted out laughing. I thought that was so funny. And not funny like laughing at the person, because that's what's going on for that person. That's what's going on for them. Good for them. That's great. That's great. And for me, I was like, that's exactly what we're talking about here. We're talking about this whole idea about the story, the story, the story. And so I thought it was really hilarious. Tiffany says, "Oh, how cute. How cute." Oh, Tiffany, you kind of can relate with your kind of realm of the world and background. It's like, it's kind of like, "Oh, bless you. I'll pray for you," kind of thing. And I was like, I'm not lost at all. There is no loss there. Well, there is no loss anyway, because there's no gain. Bless their bless their hearts. Oh, bless their hearts. Which is fine, which is great. But there is no loss, and there's no gain. So it doesn't matter anyway. So it doesn't matter anyway. And definitely this character is not, it could be, and I just thought about this for a second, then we can open it up to all of your comments and questions. I thought, if she really did listen to that, hearing what we're sharing here seems like, and can seem like, this thing of someone's lost because they don't have an identity anymore. Right? And that's what I talk about all the time. And this is exactly what's happening to me, and happens and happening to this character, is the character is going away. So then I thought, Wait a second. Oh, she is responding very naturally to me saying that I've lost myself, instead of this idea of like, oh, you need to find God again, and whatever it happens to be. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter. My point being is that what we're talking about here and what we share here can be incredibly threatening. And it can also be very combobulated. Is that the word? Combobulated. And, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. So part of you one day can hear this and this discussion, and the self will be like, I'm on board with that. And then another day, the self will be like, no, I can't do that. We can't do that. But the whole problem is always it's the self perceiving what is going on and what's being shared here. Right? So let's take a big deep breath. All right. So tonight we're just gonna share. There's nothing good or bad. You can ask or contribute anything that you want to, and I'd love to hear from you. So let's go.
I got a question.
Yeah, Casey. Hey.
Oh, I watched that video and I saw that comment. I knew you were going to bring it up.
Of course you did.
If it's true that you create what you defend against, if you defend your ego, what does that mean?
Well, then you're substantiating the ego.
Exactly.
Right. It's just like the self. I mean, the ego is the self. Right. So the more that you're like, I have my own choice. I put something. This phrase came up to me this morning when I was just like eating my breakfast. And I was like, I'm gonna put that on a meme and I'm gonna put it out there. I got like 2 likes because I think that a lot of people were like, what, are you kidding me? I'm gonna just say it really quick. Some of you probably haven't seen it, but I'm just gonna read it really quickly. And it said, the dream is that you have a choice. There is just this, and in this is all that is. I'm sure people are like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? But also, just to make a statement like, the dream is that you have a choice. The self thrives on having a choice. What is a choice? Duality. You either do A or you do B. You say yes or you say no. You succeed or you fail. That's the choice. That's the choice automatically is this sets up duality right away. It is duality. So I think that the people were probably looking at that and like, what are you talking about? But yeah,
Interesting.
it is interesting.
Now,
Other thing I was thinking about today, as I was going through my day, I was like, this is the most depressing message you've ever heard in your life. I was thinking that. I was thinking, oh my God, people are like, he's lost his mind and maybe he needs to be on happy pills. But that's the most depressing thing in the world at the same time, that the joy that comes from this is the freedom that comes is so huge. But I was thinking, wow, to the self, this is super depressing, and it's super because you have to let go of all the story.
Max, I'm glad you lost your mind. I lost.
Yeah. And what is a mind? A mind is a construct of the self that's put it together with all the beliefs and stories.
It's a book of stories.
Right. It's a hopeless story. It's hopeless. And people are like, not people, just in general, the separate self always wants hope. 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 Hope is just another story. It's just another story. It's kind of like the old man in the sky is going to come down and rescue you. Not to be blasphemous, I respect that. But self loves a story. It loves a story.
No doubt.
Which immediately makes it all go, "Huh?" Contracts it to be like, this is life, this is what it is, and this is what it isn't. One other thing I have to say, another thing that was flying through today, I was thinking, all of this is all about the nature of existence itself. What is existence? I was thinking about that as I was watching my cats.
Mind blown. Yeah, keep going.
So the cats are just existing. They're not pre-planning, they're not whatever. But this is really what we're speaking of here is really the nature of existence. What is existence itself? And existence is existence, and period, end of story. That's it.
It's different if you're a rock or a tree or a cat or a human. It's different. That's the same.
But but in this, there's only life happening, and there's only what's happening. So I don't think that either one of my cats are like self-reflective, thinking, my name is Velma, and I am this kind of being, and I'm gonna no. She's just like, scratch my tummy, or I'm gonna attack you. That's what's happening. Done. Done. Right?
Hey, well, it's like, and I'm talking from the disconnected part. I got to put this in words that make sense to most people.
Of course.
A being can be very high on the tone of life. You know what I mean? Or they can be very low. And low, like serial killer low. You know what I mean? But you don't see animals. Animals aren't like that. They don't have that whatever that thing is. You know what I mean?
Right, but be careful there, because not be careful, but just have an awareness there of high-low is definitely a duality situation.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it's not, but I'm just saying human beings, what they are or not, compared to animals, or what they are or not.
So that would fall under the category of that is just what's happening.
Right.
For sure. There's violence in the animal world.
Oh yeah, the cycle of life. But I've never seen serial killer animals, as far as I know, anyways.
Who knows? Well, we wouldn't know. We wouldn't know, really.
I suppose not.
Yeah.
You dig in your backyard and you find a pit full of cats or something. I don't know. Yep. It's an interesting thing. Tools. Like I have a calculator. And when I need to use that calculator, I use it, and then when I'm done with it, I put it back on the shelf. And there's no point in time where the calculator would control me or use me or anything like that. But the logical mind, sometimes I pull it off of the shelf to solve problems and stuff, and I put it back. But it's like there's some people that I know that use their logical mind gets away on them. Does that make sense?
That does what? You cut out. That does what to them?
It gets away on them. It's not like some people are a logical mind.
Well, the person is a logical mind.
Well, some people.
The person, the person itself, that doesn't matter what the qualities of the person. The person itself is this logic maker,
Okay, I can see that. Can
right?
I?
Go ahead.
Some people have feelings, and the feelings bring in logic, and other people have logic that bring in feelings. So it's
Right. Right.
well, I'm not saying one's better or worse than the other, but
No, I know.
differences. I know people that are very emotional, and when they express themselves emotionally, then they come to the logic of the conclusion. I know other people that aren't emotional at all, but when they run the logic, they come out to the same conclusion. It's different.
Yep. So what you're pointing out, Casey, is there are all kinds of stories going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, different manifestations.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's very, well, yeah.
I'm taking an interest in music lately, like playing a musical instrument. Never did that before, really. Yep. So that's a new thing.
That's cool. Good for you. And that's what just is appearing to happen. It's just like I've said before. I'm like, when all this really started really clicking in a few months ago, I've started listening to all different kinds of music I never would have listened to before. And I don't know why. I'm just like, oh, okay. I'm not sure. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. But I feel like there's some kind of a connection of letting go, the melting of, because what is the self? It's only just a whole bunch of beliefs and opinions and likes and dislikes. That's all it really is. So when that starts going away, then other things can come in. Right. So maybe I'm not saying it is what's happening for your character, but that possibly could be happening, because there definitely is a sense of adventure, even though there's a lot of fear in this sense of, whoa, let's try that. Oh, that's interesting. There is definitely that kind of wide-eyed thing. Hard to explain.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's new. I'm gonna be
That's good.
some music.
I love it. I love it. That's great. Yeah, when all this started happening with this character, I've said it before, is that I became really a huge sports fan,
Mm-hmm.
which was like, well, that never happened before. I didn't do that before or whatever. And it just was like, I mean, it was like there was a little I think about Reese's Pieces, right? So there's little like clues to that had been happening for a few years. And then all of a sudden it was just like, boom, I'm in. Let's go. I'm completely into this whole thing. And I'm not just like, it's interesting. I am like a fan now. And I'm and this character is invested, even though there's not a character. It's like invested in like, wow, this is really, and it just appears to happen, where this character would never even think about that before, about organized sports. I was like, oh, yuck.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's been wonderful watching you um, unfold that way. It's a wonderful unfolding. Watching that unfold, that's neat.
I never thought about that, but I thought, I mean, but that makes me think about, I'm definitely not going to do this, but maybe this whole whatever has happened to me could have been tracked through how I've been teaching and how I've been talking and how I've been sharing, that maybe it could have been seen that this has been happening to me. I did notice today that my character there was frustration with something that I was doing, and I was like, and then there was just, what happened was like, well, of course you're frustrated. You don't want to do this, you stupid idiot. Why are you doing it? And you're making yourself do it. It's the kind of that basic. and it's like the self, the remnants of the self was trying to do something that it said it was supposed to do. I'm not going to say what it was, but then there was anger and there was frustration that happened. And in the past, there could have been a number of things, but I could have been like, just push that down, just keep doing it, just ignore that, blah, blah, blah. But what happened today was like, you can't ignore that, because that's what's happening. You're going against, you're making the self do something that the non-self has no interest in at all.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh,
Frustration happens sometimes.
frustration happens. Yep. Yeah, for sure.
I was doing something today and I started getting very frustrated at it. And then I just cracked up laughing. I just said, frustration happens.
It's a good thing. It is a good thing, you know, to have that, to be able to, you know, even if you're not, haven't completely let go of the self completely yet, and it doesn't, you don't have to, it doesn't matter, to have those reminders of just like, this is just what's happening, and that's okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have to mean anything, or it could mean something. There's no rules, no rules.
Like you said earlier, it's freedom.
It's freedom, for sure. It's freedom, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Is anybody else interested in saying anything, or it doesn't matter? Just putting it out there. Because Casey and I are gonna have our own podcast very soon.
I hear Vince's voice earlier.
Yeah, Vince is here. Vince and Christine and Tiffany are here.
Oh, cool, cool, cool.
Oh, Paulette was here. She's bowed out. It's okay.
Well, I remember I made.
Yeah, something.
Hold on, Casey. Christine?
Okay, so this was coming up in my mind when you were talking. I was thinking about the whole part in A Course in Miracles about the happy dream.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like when you say it's just a story, it's just a story, that there's almost like a negative connotation to it, like a negative, like, well, it's just a story, kind of like, it's just a story, it's just a story. But there comes a point where, like, you could recognize that it's just a story, but still choose a happy story, still
Right, but
choose a peaceful story, choose the best and highest story.
of course.
If you're going to live a story, you might as well freaking live a good one. I'm not
Right.
saying that if you're not going through something bad or whatever, it's still just a story that we're placing on it that's making it negative or bad.
Right.
But if you're going to be living a story, you might as well pick the most fucking great, happiest one that you possibly can
Of
and
course.
choose to be happy. Is there still a level to it? I mean, is there still a level, like, as far as like,
No, there's no levels. There are no levels. So
Mhm.
that what you're saying is completely logical within the dream state, and it's completely logical for the self, but there is no self. And that's the problem, because as long as, not the problem, I don't want to use that word. Let me rewind. That's how it works, is that when we choose the happy dream, there's always the potential of having the bad dream. So the bad dream is lurking in the corner while there's a self choosing it. There's nothing wrong with what you're saying. I agree, within the dream state, that is the truth for sure. There's no doubt about it. You can make really choices that make you feel good within the dream, but that's the self making a choice. And that's okay. That is completely
but you
okay.
still recognize that it is still just a dream.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
totally. And when you and when or if there is a resonance that this is a dream. It's a happy dream. It's still a dream. It's kind of like, Christine, you've heard me say this, and I say it all the time, is that it doesn't matter if you win the rat race because you're still a rat.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. So you can keep winning the rat race. That's fantastic. And that'll be really good. But there's still this
Because of course,
constricted
the first thing my
sense
ego
of,
wants to do is when you say,
go ahead.
oh,
Say it, Christine.
like the first thing my ego wants to come up with, or my, when I think that it's just a story is, well, then if it's just a story, then why even bother? Like, then what the fuck are we doing here? Like,
Right.
then
That's
why am I
actually
even
more
having this dream,
truthful. That's more truthful. Because the self is going to keep going, da, da, da. And then, what did I say earlier, Christine? You heard me say it. I mean, I really was like, this is the most depressing message ever, because it doesn't give any hope. The self needs the hope. The separated self needs the hope. Existence is just it, right? So what I'm hearing from you sounds very natural, that state of whatever you just said, of like, well, then why am I making any choice at all? That's more truthful than choosing the happy dream.
Yeah.
I know.
But it's almost like standing on the edge of a big, huge, gaping black hole that goes nowhere.
That's right.
And jumping into it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. It is. You're totally right with that. Totally right. And I acknowledge that in the dream state, there are ways for the self to feel better or feel worse. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But just in this conversation, the awareness that the self is its own enemy. Because then it's conditional, right, Christine? Because so then when the dream is happy, it's happy. But when the dream's not happy, it's not happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's so based on circumstances being a certain way.
Yeah. What we're talking about here is completely unconditional love. It's unconditional. If it's going well or if it's going bad, it's unconditional. But there's not a self that's experiencing the story of the thing. There's just life happening. There's a business that's failing. There's a business that's succeeding. There's a beautiful sunny day with great friends. Or there's a really challenging day with your 3-year-old that is rubbing poop on the walls. I'm just thinking that. Whatever it is, that's just what's happening. That's not connected to anything other than, it's not connected to anything. It's just life happening. But it's scary for the self. You're right. And that analogy or that image of the gaping hole is so true. So true. Because it's like a complete just letting go of it all and being like, I don't fucking know. I was saying this the other day in something. I was reading some Socrates the other day. I love Socrates. And one of Socrates' main principles of how he taught his students, and one of his main principles is that if you think you know everything, you know nothing. So you should always know nothing. You should always know nothing, because the more that you try to know, the worse you are off. And he would used to teach his students this, and he would always challenge them about what they don't know, and what they think they do know, because it's just the self adding another library book in the self's belief system. Does that make sense? Because we don't know. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And once again, it's true. In the dream state itself, there are easier ways of getting through the dream state, and there are harder ways. Why choose the harder? When you think that there's a choice. That's not the conversation we're having here, because that's not what this is. But you're completely right, Christine, in that, you know what? When you believe you have a choice in the dream state, make the choice that makes you feel good. In the dream, in the illusion. But ultimately, there isn't any choice.
Yeah. Yeah, that just freaks me out.
Mm-hmm. The self doesn't like this.
That's why we have shiny things.
Yeah.
That's right, Vince. Exactly.
Ooh, shiny.
Vince is like comments from the peanut gallery. That's why I have shiny things. That's true. The self is obsessed with the shiny things. So it doesn't have to like look at what we're talking about or what we're trying to convey here. Right? Because it's the death of the self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was never satisfied. There's always another shiny thing and another shiny thing and another shiny thing.
That's right.
Just continuously
Always.
chasing shiny things.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Because that thing's going to give you meaning, or that's going to give you pleasure, or that's going to, whatever. I was just doing that on Inside Timer, going over the I need do nothing section of the course. And it's so true. It's like, really, when you understand you need do nothing, when you really get that the only reason you're doing things is to satiate your body identified ego. And then when you can really, and he even says it in the course. This is why I love the course, because it does point to this all the time. For just an instant, you can do nothing. You're on your way. It starts happening. You start to be like, oh, all that chatter of what I have to do, what I need to think, and how do I control. That's just the noise, the monkey mind.
I just thought of something, Max.
Sure, Case.
Think of it as positive and negative, the choice, which way you're going to go, positive or negative. But to think of it as a different way, if we were talking in political terms, it would be, which is a person, Democratic or Republican. So there's a choice there. But it doesn't matter what the choice is, because happens. So it's beyond the choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But there's only the separated self that can make the choice.
But that's the problem. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When you start to see this, I say it all the time. When you see it, you can't not see it, and you will see it everywhere, that there's all this duality happening all over the place. I'll say this or I'll say that. Democrat or Republican, hot or cold, whatever it happens to be. I'm a success, I'm a failure. I'm spiritual, I'm not spiritual. I'm healthy, I'm unhealthy. It's all over the place, everywhere in the dream state. over and over and over and over and over and over and over, because that's what the dream state is. It is this, like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And what Christine was saying, alluding to earlier, is like, you'll never win. Because if you do win, the next election, you're going to lose. Or whatever. Even if you do win, and make a shitload of money off of your business, there's always then what happens? Then they're like, oh God, I got to make sure I keep this business so I don't lose it. There's no winning. There's no winning. It's kind of like in relationships, in the worldly relationships, you get the guy, you get the girl, and then there's like, oh, I got to keep the girl. I got to keep the guy. Be good. Be a good husband. Be a good wife. Make sure. Da da da. All based on this could go away. And that's what most people call life. The separated self believes that that's what life is. And then I got to do the right thing. Do the right thing. Don't say the wrong thing. Be the right kind of husband. Da 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 da. Blah 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 blah.
Then you do all that and it doesn't work out the way you thought it should. And then you go, what was the purpose of all of that? Why did I do all of that? And if you don't have a story and you don't have an expectation, there's no letdown. It's just oh, this is what we're doing today. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it's so connected to the self's needs. Mm-hmm. There's all those pointers, that expectation thing, and this is how it should be, this is how it shouldn't be, all of that other stuff. And it's just exhausting. Just exhausting, really. It's exhausting to the self. And the course refers to that, is like when you start to wake up from the dream. It doesn't say this exactly, but you start to be like, energy starts pumping through and you start to be like, whoa, I have been wasting so much energy my whole life in trying to control the outcome or try to control other people or myself. And then the point, you're like, fuck it, there's no control anyway, so it doesn't matter. And then a whole new vibrational shift or of energy starts happening. And that can be really, really disempowering and disengaging and scary and all that stuff. But it's a whole, the level of being is very different at that point.
You had a mystical experience. You want to talk about that? Recently?
Vince, you sound like you. I just thought, my God, Vince is Barbara Walters right now. Baba Wawa, Baba Wawa. Oh my God, Vince, you're so funny. Okay, I'll tell you about what happened to me.
Barbara,
Okay.
you've gotten so much more attractive.
Oh, exactly. Baba Wawa. So I said in this video the other day that I had this kind of like it's crazy mystical experience last week. And I was like, oh my God, it's too much. I'm not going to go into it. But this is a good time to go into it. So this kind of leads to, let me just tell you what happened. I'll just tell you what happened. So last Saturday night, I was like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta go walk around. I didn't have any plans. I wasn't seeing friends or whatever, but I was just gonna walk. So, and I know that there's in Lincoln Center, there's the big silent disco rollerball thing. That's the different disco than that's happening in Woolman Rink, whatever. But I live, not very far from Lincoln Center. So I just go up 9th Avenue and just have a good walk. Hot as Hades, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I was like, I'm just gonna go have a walk. I'll go up to Lincoln Center, I'll walk around and whatever. And so I walked up there and there was all on my Instagram stories and everything. And at Lincoln Center, if you've been there, there's this there's a restaurant, and on top of the restaurant is like a big, huge grass field where you can, where people can sit on top of and just hang out on. And there was like a dance kind of thing happening and everything. And so I was like, yeah, this is good. So I'll just go up there. I actually, the whole time I've been there, I lived here before they even built that, but I've never really been up and sat up on that grass. It's really a very cool thing. Look it up. So I get up there and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sit here and watch the dance and look at the stars. Oh, there wasn't stars at that point. It was, yeah, it was still light. And as I was sitting there, I start like going, what? And my eyes start like going, whoa, whoa. Wah. And when I say wah, it's like the images start going in and out, and they start to all shift and change. And I'm like, am I dehydrated? I had water because it was hot. I'm like, drink some water, drink some water. I'm like, no, I'm been drinking water all day. I'm not dehydrated. And I just started the buildings were starting to kind of like move around, and I'm just sitting there on the grass myself watching this whole thing. And for a second myself started to get really scared, like, oh my god, what if I pass out right now? And then people are gonna, I'll be embarrassed. And the self started getting, and then I was like, shut the fuck up. Anyway, so I'm like, and then I just look up at the sky and I start to see atoms and energy and all of these sparkles of atoms and energy flying around. Oh, this is interesting. So everyone here is, I'm sure, has experienced this. When you see the floaters in your eye, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Right. So you see those floaters and you see them go like this and you're like this. I was like, oh, they're floaters. And I'm like, oh no, this is not floaters at all. And I started to see all of this. And it was absolutely incredible. And as I was sitting there, the self, I told you, was like, don't freak out. And then I'm like, shut up, self. And as I just like relaxed into it, it just became this incredible, beautiful. It was like I was on drugs. It was like I was on drugs. And I was like, this beautiful, incredible experience of just seeing space, seeing atoms and seeing molecules just flying. And there were sparkles and there was all this other stuff. And I was just sitting there going, I wonder what I really look like. But I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then I was like, oh, I can choose not to see this if I want to. And I looked down and I didn't see it at all. It's like, oh. And then this is interesting about choice. And I was like, no. It's still right there. It's still right there. And I look and I'm like, then I can see it. And then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, it's gone. No, it's there. It's completely there. And then practically speaking, I was like, well, I can't walk home seeing all this stuff. I don't know if I'll even be able to walk. But it really made me, there was something that was connected to letting go of my perceptions that this was all happening. So that was my mystical experience.
Very cool. My background picture.
Oh.
I've been seeing what you're talking about for a couple months.
Oh.
And I had to like draw it to like get it out because I've been seeing it too, and it doesn't look like sperm, but that's how it came out when I drew it. But that's what it looks like in the sky. You can see it in the sky. I've been seeing it for a couple months now, but it wasn't as intense maybe as what you were saying. Like, I'm able to walk, but I see it. I can still see it if I look outside right now in the sky.
You know what? That's so crazy. It's very similar to but it's like
they're in motion.
Millions and
they're
moving
everywhere.
around. It reminded me a lot. My God. I mean, maybe it's not just me. It doesn't matter. But it reminded me a lot of, this is heavy, but I'm just gonna say it anyway. When I saw the first plane, because I crashed into the Twin Towers when I was standing there and I saw the first plane crash in the Twin Towers, and I was standing on 6th Avenue and I saw that. And as soon as I saw that happen, I saw all of this light and souls going. It was kind of similar to that, which was crazy. That's intense, Vince. You and I are connected. See? There's only one of us here.
I was wondering if maybe it were just free radicals hitting my eye, and maybe I'm more perceptive to it now, because free
Maybe.
radicals are constantly moving around. And,
Mm-hmm.
but you could actually see free radicals, like they have experiments where there's like they set up like a tank, and there's like a vapor in the tank, and you just see the free radicals coming into the tank and just like making like a kind of like little, but
yeah, like fireflies.
But there's very few of them per like. There's only like a couple per minute. Like what we're seeing this like
a lot,
like billions of them just everywhere, consuming the sky. But it's very subtle. Like it's not like taking over your entire vision, but they're there. You can't deny it.
And then I thought, you know, because it's so hot and humid, then I was like, maybe I'm just perceiving and being able to see because there's so much humidity in the air that I'm able to see it because there's water around all of these things now. I was thinking that, but that's another story, but I don't know. I mean, it could be a very just a logical explanation to it, or it could be metaphysical. It doesn't matter. But I was just like,
try to just brush it off as some logical, oh yeah, it could be free radicals, but who knows what it is, right?
I mean, and of course it's like, you know, just being aware about how the ego wants to make a story either way about it. Either be like, oh, it's just free radicals, or this is a mystical vision.
Yeah.
It's just what appeared to happen.
Yeah.
But I definitely had the sense that for me, so hold on a second, is that I had a real sense, a real lived sense that it had something to do with what's been shifting within me. Go ahead, Vince. Sorry.
I don't know. It didn't matter. I don't even remember what it was going to be.
It's okay.
But yeah.
And then you could say it's law of attraction. We're both having the same experiences.
I'm actually learning like a 3D animation software to try to like animate this phenomenon, because this picture doesn't do it justice. It looks, they're not white, exactly, they're more clear looking.
Yes, I know. I get it. You and I have had I'm probably a very similar experience. There's no doubt about it. So that was sort of the thing that I was talking about. So, but then that's just another story, and then you just go, okay, whatever. Okay.
Which makes me wonder, have you always imagined what the Course talks about the real world as another, like, I don't know, I don't want to say dimension, but like another just realm or something? Or is it just this planet, but from a non-judged point of view?
Well, I think that over the years that's changed. I think when I very first was introduced to the Course, I had a whole idea about it, what it was. And then as I've grown and as I've studied, that's all shifted and changed, right? Now, I think that the real world isn't even able to is beyond words. You can't even describe or speak of it. It's just, it's experiential anyway.
But when you say like, this is it, I'm wondering if you're thinking this is the real world, like this is even like this is that, or if it's something else that happens perhaps when you know, you eventually are done with the body, like, all right, I'm good with this body, and you just lay it aside, like the
No. There's no difference. I already died and came back a couple of times in my life, so I know that there's no difference between that. So there's for my experience, and whatever that has to do, is that there is really kind of no difference really at all. It just is very clear and very plain. That's like, it's all love. it's all it's a resonance, it's a feeling, it's a thing that you're just like and we feel that, we can experience that for sure, and we have little glimpses of it all the time. And that little glimpse is like, how they, sometimes they say a hole in the veil, or a pierce in the veil, it's like you get like but that pierce and that resonance is what it all is. That's the real. Everything else is just another story in the story of the separated self. For me. And you should believe me because I'm right. But there's no me here anyway, so it doesn't matter. Who cares? I mean, listen, enjoying Fresca is just as amazing as anything to me. Okay. Anyone else want to say anything? Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How would you define non-duality? If someone asked you
I don't know.
what non-duality
Well,
is.
I would just say it's only one. There's only one. That's it. I would say there's only one. It's that term is so cumbersome to me, non-duality. It's cumbersome, but that's the closest thing to what I'm talking about here, or what we're sharing here.
Would unity suffice?
Like a double negative, non-duality. It's what's double negative.
Right. And unity wouldn't suffice because it implies two things coming together. There isn't two things coming together. It is what it is. If you watch my latest video of what I was talking, it's like the absolute isness of all that isness of all the absoluteness. Absolute is one of the words that I love. Isness, absoluteness. So non-duality is fine, but I would say if you would really, just like, it's not two, it's one. That's it.
A lot of teachers, they're talking about, sharing awakening with others, right? Like, isn't that just partly what we're doing here as well, is to share this awakening with each other, to help each other wake up? But
well, there's no waking up.
Well, would there be right? Because technically you're already there. It's just a veil drawn over it. So waking up then in this regard would be removing the veil, or piercing the veil, or So in that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm getting at. So would you say, what's the point? It's not.
What is the point? There is no point. There's no point.
Like, it's just something to do while we're here.
Yeah. There's nothing. I mean, there's no point in what we're doing. There isn't any point in what we're doing. And as I said to you, Vince, before, if I mean, who knows? I don't know. If I wasn't in as a quote unquote spiritual teacher or whatever before, I don't know if I'd talk about this with anybody else. I don't know if I would do it. I don't think that I would. I'm not sure if I would. I don't think I would. Like if I sold shoes for a living, or I was a fashion designer or whatever, and this was happening to me, I don't know if I would. Maybe with some close friends over a couple of drinks, and then they'd be like, "Are you okay? Do we need to take you to the Bellevue?" But the only reason that I'm doing this is because this is kind of in the milieu of what I have done. So there's no point in it at all. There's no point in it. But there seems to be a resonance with some people, and some of those people keep kind of coming back, and maybe that feels right, or it doesn't feel right, or it challenges you, or it says you need to find God. So there's no point. There's no point. Whereas and this is something that I need to address just in general anyway, because it's becoming clearer and clearer. When I'm doing Course in Miracles work, it is speaking within the dream state to within the dream state, so I can see it very clearly. So, but this isn't that communication at all. It's something completely different. So it's not like I'm betraying this by teaching the Course in Miracles or whatever. It's like, because within the dream state, there is still, like I was saying to Christine, there is still options in the dream state. But what we're talking about, there are no option at all. It's just this. That's it. And this is nothing.
I just bring it up because the Course and other avenues, there's this sense of
Helping each other to wake up.
yes, because
Yeah.
it would create
that's the story.
it would bring about a sense of
There'd be a
quote,
great
heaven on
the
earth.
Great Awakening.
Right, like it would bring about a sense of heaven on earth in a sense, because it would just allow people to, I guess, separate from suffering, or I don't know, be happy rather than be sad, I guess. But
And that's what Christine was saying about, you can choose to have a happier dream within the dream, but you're still in the dream.
right, and so
There's nothing wrong with that.
So then, like, when there is no more dreaming, there is no more perception, the Course would say.
Of course.
So
Of
now,
course.
but that does not mean, does that mean there is no, it can't mean there's no life, because life's eternal. So then is it just perceptionless life in
Life just happens. It's just life is just happening. It's happening as, and I mean, you've heard Kenneth, speak, and he'll just say life is I was gonna say Francesca, frescaing. Life is glassing. Life is phoning. Life is life is eye concealering. Wink, wink. Life is just lifing itself.
Yes, I get that. I guess what I'm asking is, like, we seem to be pretty intelligent beings, so we're not gonna, like, if we lay this body aside, it's not like we're gonna life as a eye concealer, like there may be, like, what's next, right? Like
There isn't anything next. There's no next. There's no next. There's nowhere to get to.
there is a series of this eternal now moment, right? And you seem to move about, but that's illusory because you're not moving anywhere, technically, right?
Yeah. You're not.
So then does that mean if the body is laid aside, there is just
That's just what happens.
eternal blackness in that for just ever, like
as you
just
say
alive,
from your black picture.
right?
Is there eternal blackness in my black picture?
I know you don't know the answer experientially.
No, of course I don't know it. No.
I'm more just posing the question because it seems like where this
No.
this nothing media version of non-duality is pointing to is saying this is it and it's nothing else and just deal with it.
Yeah,
So,
but there's
like,
no one to deal with it. That's
I know they would also say that short circuits the thinking mind, which you just witnessed happen to me just now. I just was rendered to just a mere utter of
because
But-
there isn't anyone to witness it.
Then who are-
The
who is this-
witnesser of the
who-
witness is the separated self, which is the story. And the story is not real. So that makes the self not real.
I guess we're there's a little
We're
bit of-
saying the same I think we're saying the same thing. Or not.
there is obviously the separated self has this sense of I and this individuation. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking
Okay.
about the presence of of
Oneness
yes, like
of
it's
complete connection with all that is.
sure, I guess that too,
Mhm.
even like one I'm just trying to put words to this because I know what you're going to say, and I'm trying to say.
No, just
I'm
say
trying
what
to-
you have to say. While you're doing that, I'm going to pour a glass of wine. I'm having a glass of wine. It's 10 o'clock. I'm having a glass of wine. Go ahead.
I'm just trying to and I know there's no there.
I know it's difficult. I get it.
My point is, I guess there's still this desire or yearning for there to be an endless sense of self, because there is a self currently, and it isn't the body, which we know,
Mm-hmm.
or at least that's what we're being told.
Which
We
is a
witness
story.
bodies come and go, so there is this probability that this body that I appear to inhabit may come and go, though
Mhm.
that's just a belief based on what I've seen. I guess the question is, do you think that there is just the immediate transition to another life experience so seamlessly that it doesn't even have a blip of transition? It's just instantaneously the next life, or the next not incarnation, but just the next body, I guess, that you, the self, the I, the witness of everything is just witnessing now. This new witness of now, like in a new body experience. Like, do we ever let a body go? What do you think of that?
I think that sounds like an inquiry from the separate self needing control of what happens in the future.
So then you're essentially pointing to the body never ceasing to be.
The
And
body isn't really it is it how do I say this? This is
That's what
difficult.
I'm
It's not
saying.
difficult, but the body is and it's not.
Right, but the me, I mean,
But
I
you're
don't
not a
mean- I don't
body.
mean- I know, I don't mean me as a body, but I mean me as a thinking agent.
Right. Your separated self, you mean?
Well, no, because there is an eternal thinking agent, is there not? If we are eternal,
I don't know. Are we
and
eternal?
if it's not dual, it would mean it's everything,
Eternity
every
implies that there's time.
one.
It does. Eternity implies time. Implies that there's time. And there is no time. Time is a concept. So then eternity is a concept.
I'm just saying this conversation's getting better and better.
It's just I'm trying to rectify or I don't
Yeah,
know.
of course the self wants to rectify and understand and organize and make sense. There's no sense to this.
It just
It
makes
doesn't
me-
matter.
It's
It's
like-
okay.
it just makes me wonder then, the course, how is the course helpful then if it's not really actually, if it's just lying?
Well, it's not lying. It's just so the course and what we're talking about on some level are two different things.
And I know you
But-
pointed to that before. I know you said
But
that
at the
before.
same time, this is what makes it difficult for this character, is that there are these intersections that are truthful, right? So I'm going to come back to what Christine, welcome back, Christine said earlier, is that if you can make a choice for a happy dream while you're in the play, then make the choice for the happy dream. And that's the course is doing, is helping you to be like, you don't have to be miserable, stupid. You can be happy.
And the
Even
course
though
will-
you've had this. So it's kind of helping you to choose again, and ultimately, and the course will say this: you choose until you don't have to choose anymore. You forgive until there's no more forgiveness.
Now, in the course, he also says, all your time is spent in dreaming, right?
That's right, because time is a dream.
So then if time is a concept and
Mhm.
eternity thus then is a concept, then all there is dreaming, then dreaming is reality and eternally true forever and all there is.
Sure, why not? That's a good
But
story.
then the Course is lying because it's saying it's not. It's saying that it's actually not the case.
I don't know if the Course is lying. I don't know. But I will say this, and what made me think, and we said this here, I think before, is that, you know, from the Aboriginal point of view, in the Aboriginal point of view, and the Australian Aboriginals, they say that when you wake up, that's the dream. When you're awake, walking around, that's the dream time. When you go to sleep is the real time. That's the reality. And when you walk up and you're going to work and you're loving your children and da, 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 that's the dream. So there's that.
I mean, that's kind of in line with the
But
Course is saying, because it's
the
talking about eternal rest,
Right.
or
Mhm.
you know, just that, you know, coming back
Mhm.
to rest. Like that's what all the lessons are pointing to, is
The
stillness.
rest and be still is the whole thing of it's pointing you towards there's something other than the self trying to get something. Christine, did you want to say something? Sorry. No.
I was saying that there's the danger of like even taking the Course as far as like, you know, like you're getting upset right now that you think that it's lying to you, is because your ego was searching for answers in the Course to tell you over your own experience, like what is the truth of something. Almost like the way people even look for the Bible to tell them how to think and what the meaning is.
Of
And
course.
so, you know,
Yes.
there's a danger of like taking the Course and we're studying it and everything, and then you think that it has the answers and it's pointing the way to the truth of and telling you how to be and how to think and what the meaning is for everything over your own direct experience, which is what we tend to do with like everything. You know, we're always looking for something to give us the answer. The answer, the answer, the answer. Give me the mother effing answer.
Because the self
you
is
know?
always a follower. What you just said, that made me think. The self, the separated self, is always following because it's seeking. It's like, oh, tell me what to do. I'll do it like that, or I'll do it like that, or I'll do it like that. That's just another. I mean, that's one of the biggest games of the whole thing. Right, so it's just following around and it's da, 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 da. It'll just believes whatever, and there's nothing wrong with that, but just to see that the self is always going to be a follower. It's never really this is now this duality, follower, leader, or whatever, but it thrives on being guided. It thrives on being told. That's why, hello, religion, hello, you know, political affiliations, da, 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 da. It thrives on being, knowing I'm doing the right thing, and it's being told what to do and how to do it. That's just what happens. It's just what happens.
I see it happening in Course in Miracles discussion groups that I'm on in Facebook too, where everyone is trying to take all the wording of Course in Miracles and twist it and turn it to fit their own beliefs. So this is what the Course says, like it's the Bible, you know, and and everyone has their own different meanings and views, and it's just the same thing as Christianity or any other religion. It starts to become more, you know, dogmatic and dogma, where you're trying to find the answer and you're continually searching, even using the Course as a search.
Anything
over,
can be
you know, direct
used by the
experience.
ego or right, for sure. So I mean,
And I have
and
to laugh
all,
because you know, I follow
go ahead, sorry, go ahead.
I follow Jacob Glass, and he's been a teacher for many, many, many years of the Course. And even he says the Course is just like pretty much pure bullshit. And he's like calls it out all the time. And he's like, I sat there for many years saying, dear God, show me the way. Dear God,
Right.
you know, do the whole prayer from Course in Miracles, dear God, show. And he says, I never heard a mother freaking thing. No, nothing ever told me what to do. You know, because even that is like misleading. They are sitting there waiting for something outside of yourself to tell you what to do.
That's
You
why I
know, like we're
told
gonna hear
all
some
of
voice
you.
in our ear. God
Right.
is telling you to do this.
That's why I told all of you. Yeah. I mean, in my course groups, which not Casey's in it, but everyone else, I'm like, I just have to be really, really, really honest at this point and call out the course where I see that it's bullshit. And I'm like, no, that's not, no, whatever it is, I can't not do that anymore. It doesn't matter. And so, but it doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make it, it's like, oh, it's like horrible.
I
It
mean, it's
doesn't
just
make
a
it wrong.
fantastic psychology book. It's not, it's nice
Of
to listen
course.
to read it for that.
It's incredibly valuable to understand how the human psyche works. It's incredibly valuable for that. There's no doubt about that, for sure. And it can lead people to a place that they never thought they could ever be. So,
A lot of non-duality teachings and teachers, they're all saying, they're all like look at your direct experience. That keeps coming up. I hear that a lot, and I'm hearing that now.
But I wouldn't say that, because your direct experience is not the thing, because it's yourself that's having the experience.
Right. I mean, perception technically is a lie, or not, what I'm saying by a lie. Like, it's not,
Yeah.
it's perception is illusory in the sense that, like you said, you had that mystical experience, your vision was wobbling. I mean, how is that? It's true for you in that moment, that's what you were experiencing, but it's not reflecting what other people are seeing in that moment.
No.
It's individual to you. So it's not an objective reality.
Right.
So this direct experience approach is unique to every individual. So that just reinforces the ego identity, because it's saying
it. Yes,
look,
I get that. I
so
get that completely.
It's nearly inescapable, this ego phenomenon.
Yeah.
Until when, right? Like where
well, it's not until when, it's already here. Even that's still happening, even when the character had the mystical experience of looking at the things in the sky. It's still there. It's never changed, or it doesn't, whatever. I only shared that experience because part of the experience was, wait a second, this could be connected. I don't know. I have no idea. This could be connected to letting go of the character is dwindling away. So maybe the perception is completely changing. And that's just another story. And I will completely admit that. I'll completely admit that.
Can I say something?
Yep, Casey. And then I'm aware of time. So we just got a couple more minutes. So go ahead, Casey.
I really like Vince's languaging of that when he said the ego manifesting. The idea that that the ego is a manifestation as opposed to it's you. You know what I mean? I just thought that was interesting. The way he said that, I was like, oh wow, that's kind of cool.
I mean, I don't even remember if I said manifesting, but I know what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
I'll go back and listen to it afterwards. I could be totally wrong, but I just like the idea that,
the ego is the separated self. It's the manifestation of the separated self.
Yeah, a manifestation.
It is.
Yep.
Sure. There's just nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just the way things are. Go ahead, Casey. I'm sorry.
Like the way that sounded. That was a match. That's all.
Okay.
I just tripped before and I said, wow, I like that. That's awesome.
I love that.
Good. Sorry.
I said I was going back on mute. I'll listen now.
Okay, Case. And one more thing, and then we're going to wrap up. Go ahead, Vince.
Nothing critical. I'm just saying, like, the course seems to point to like how evil the ego is, and like how it's such a bad thing, and it was, an attack on God, and it's like,
I know,
painting such a villainous picture, and I don't want
And
to
at the same
disagree.
time, it says you create what you defend against. So it contradicts itself.
And then it also says the ego is a contradiction. So it's
And
like
the ego is a contradiction, and that's a truth. There's no doubt about that. So
it makes you wonder, like, that create what you defend against or make what you defend against system. Is that the truth, or is that still within the dream?
I don't know. I don't know. I know within the dream, I personally, this character can say 150% that through my students and through what I have experienced is the thing that I don't want the most is the thing that comes back. I don't want to feel scared. I don't want to feel crazy. I don't want people to think I'm an asshole. And then it just is like, then it comes back. That seems to be a law, seems to be, only apparently seems to be. So, I mean, who knows? Pick and choose, I guess. Okay. All right. Take a deep breath, everybody. That was a really good conversation. We went over tonight, which is fine. Thank you for your time. This has been great. I love speaking with you. This is wonderful. I put a link for my PayPal. If you'd like to make a donation, I'd really appreciate it. So it's there. You don't have to. Also, just to let you know, I am going to California. I'll be in California for 3 weeks to help my dad. He is having knee replacement surgery, and someone needs to be there, and so I'm going to be there. So next week is the first week, so you have to be kind of flexible with me as far as my live streams and these, so I don't know exactly what's going to be happening. So if for some reason we can't do this, just know I'll let everyone know in an email. So okay,
Good. Hope everything's fine.
thank you, I appreciate that. All
Yep.
right, everybody.
Oh,
Thank you.
good. Your kitty cat there is going to be so happy to see you.
I know he probably won't even remember
Mookie or Mookie.
Mookie. Yeah, it'll be good to see him and see my dad and everything. So, all right, everybody, have a great night. You can unmute and say I love you if you want to. I love
Bye.
you.
Love you
Love you,
guys. Thank you.
everybody. Okay.
Good
Have a great night.
night.
Good night.